we are.
Oh, yeah.
My upload's good. My FPS is good. No dropped frames yet. Fantastic.
Well, let's not jinx ourselves here.
Well, actually, the last couple of shows I've done, not to jinx it, no dropped frames.
Your CPU is up to snuff.
Apparently.
So what's the general format I should kind of keep an eye out for here?
So basically,
Don't say anything.
Okay,
Sit
I can do
down,
that. I'll
shut
just
up.
leave right now.
That's
Hold
that's
on.
what our guests do. Yeah.
You cannot stop me from talking on what isn't really my own show. But this is my
But you
network,
d-
damn it.
but you can nuke this entire channel if you want to, actually.
That's true. I'll have
That
a
is-
hostile takeover. My chip will infect your chip,
Oh.
and I will take over the network.
Exactly. So
Dark
basically,
motherfuckers.
it's all broken down in actually this document here. So we go top down
Oh.
here. We do the intro. We do the about the game, quick story synopsis, generally from Giant Bomb if they have it, because their wiki is just really well put together. Time travel, where we kind of go look at the reception, other games that came out around the same time, and then was it top of the pile? Was it overlooked? Does it kind of how well does it fit the game club motif? And then we do first hour general gameplay. What did you like? What you didn't like? Good lines, great moments, and then weird stuff, emergent gameplay, and glitches, and then plugs.
Okay.
I always tell our guests too, speak up, because we have a tendency to kind of ramble on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it can
You're
be
not gonna
hard
have
for
that
some.
issue.
Yeah, it can be
Yeah,
hard for
I'll
someone who's
probably be
not,
okay.
who's never done it before, or might not be comfortable talking
Sure.
with us to speak up sometimes. So we try to make sure we encourage that. But I think we'll be okay here.
We're
I think
pretty
my only
intimidating.
question is: are we concerned about spoilers as part of this? Is this kind of a spoiler cast?
no.
Okay.
If you're
I got
listening to
stuff
this,
to say.
yeah, because there's things to say.
Yeah, I got stuff to say about the ending of this damn game.
All right. Well, with
Stupid
that
kids.
out of the way, let's count it into our introduction here. So I'm going to count it down. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to TVGP Game Club Cast, where folks from the TVGP.tv forums get together once a month and talk about a community-voted game. I'm your host, The Hannah. With me, as always, is Nintendork327
Hello.
and the other Jay-Z.
Hello.
And also with us, we're blessed today, really.
The Pope's in town.
The CEO,
The
of
patron
E1
saint.
the patron saint
my
of
hat.
E1M1 Networks, has gratefully joined us today, hosting TVGP, picking up the pixels, dynamic soundtrack when he feels like it. Boston.
All this stuff you don't listen to.
Yeah. Wah, wah. Yeah, Boston. Nice to have you with us.
Hi, everyone.
So this month's nominees were Fugazi, again, with Dark Souls. I'm so sorry.
It's got to win.
One
It
day,
has
buddy.
to
2
win.
months in a row.
It has to win.
One
He's
of
got to
these
head back
days.
to a bonfire and try again.
Right.
That's the one I voted for. It has to win.
Lance Freeman with X-Men Legends. And, of course, Boston with Syndicate from 2012.
Hi.
Hi. So-
I'm
Who
so
won?
sorry.
That's okay. So the winner was Syndicate. And, Boston, can you tell us why you picked Syndicate?
Sure. I'm actually a really big fan of Bullfrog's original Syndicate game. So, 1993, Bullfrog, who was later gobbled up by EA, put out a strategy game, not really an RPG, but it was a strategy business world overtaking
Business
game.
tactics.
Yeah, and it was really
couldn't
interesting,
sound
and it
more boring.
really, yeah, it really clicked with me. Came out on the PC and the Amiga in '93, which is showing my age quite a bit. But there was something about it, and I loved Syndicate, and I loved Syndicate Wars. Came out probably about 4 or 5 years later, and I always really liked this war happening between businesses, and I always thought it was really interesting. And never got around to playing the 2012 release of Syndicate, even though I knew it was, let's say, different. Knobs was always a big fan of it, and
Yeah.
I trust the guys from Giant Bomb, and they were a big fan of it. So I always wanted to see, compared to the other games, what part of that spirit was carried over.
Well, it's a lot like Shadowrun in that you have these corporations battling each other, except Shadowrun, a little bit more magic, not so much less tech. But it was weird because these remakes both took crazy right turns from the original. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a weird parallel.
Right, yeah.
So, we played Syndicate from 2012. Syndicate, to just give you a brief overview, it's a first-person shooter published by Electronic Arts, and it was developed by Starbreeze Studios, the same guys behind Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, and the original Darkness.
Right.
Yeah. So, fun fact. So, The Darkness was the first game to use Starbreeze's in-house engine, the Union engine, and this was actually the last game to use it.
It definitely evolved. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed this was a custom engine. It's a really tight, mechanically speaking game. So this came out February 21st, 2012 in North America. Came out on Windows, PS3, and 360. And the game was actually banned in Australia due to excessive violence.
Yep. Do you think they got Mad Max Fury Road there?
I think there's
That would
one
be funny.
specific scene in this game that probably got it banned.
Yeah,
There's,
what is it? What could it be?
There's
train?
the train where it's a dude is just walking through and just murdering civilians, just blat,
Yeah.
blat, blat.
No Mandarin, I think was the title of that.
So that's the idea of the game. Let's get into the story a little bit. So Syndicate takes place in a future where corporations, also referred to as syndicates, there it is, there's the title.
Not confusing at all.
Good night, everybody.
Yep. Have grown tremendously powerful, replacing the governments of the world. They lean heavily on advancing the capabilities of the DART chip, a microchip implanted in the skull of 57% of the world population that allows enhanced interactivity with the surrounding world. Each corporation has weaponized the chip, allowing for enhanced senses and physical abilities, as well as the ability to hack into other chips to varying degrees with diverse effects. Experimental versions of these chips are placed in agents, assets utilized by the corporations to further their agendas through a mix of subterfuge, sabotage, and aggression. With each company trying to gain the upper hand over their competition, corporate espionage runs rampant, paranoia is innate, and tensions have reached a boiling point between the three largest syndicates of the world, Eurocorp, Aspari, and Cayman Global. The campaign follows the story of Agent Miles Kilo,
Shaking my head. Just, nope.
primary test subject for Dr. Lily Drawl, voiced by Rosario Dawson, her prototype Dart 6 chip. His partner agent Jules Merritt, voiced by Michael Wincott. Let's get a little...
I'm Jules Merritt.
Yeah, he was pretty great. The CEO of Eurocorp, Jack Denham, voiced by Brian Cox, and the fall of Eurocorp. So basically, you're following Agent Miles Kilo, which is one of the worst names ever.
I had no idea he had a first name.
Yeah.
They just called him Kilo, and I just went
Yeah.
like, so is he like the 7th or 8th guy? Which alphabet letter is K?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's they reference it once at the very end of the game, and I was like, oh, I thought that was your code name. Okay,
Right.
sorry, Miles.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just a drug smuggler. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, all I could think of was, like, are you trying to, like, okay, it's Eurocorp, but they're based in America, so, like, what's an American thing and what's a European thing? Like, that's all I could think of.
Yeah.
Welcome, Captain Foot Centimeter.
So let's do a little bit of time travel we always do here. Let's go back to February 2012.
Oh, wait, no, I got a better one.
No? Huh?
Agent Dollar Sterling.
Ooh,
That's the
that's not
one.
bad.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. So let's time travel back to February 2012. So Syndicate actually got a fairly good reception. Metacritic scores fairly high. I think for the PC version it's a little low just because, PC critics. But it's got like a 74 on Metacritic. Giant Bomb gave it a 5 out of 5.
Giant Bomb was off the rocker.
Yeah, Giant Bomb loves
Surprisingly
this game.
high.
Yes, like
I would say-
like too high.
Ridiculously high.
Yeah,
And look at who the guy was who wrote it. That was Jeff Gerstmann.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he can find flaws in anything.
Yes, he can.
Yeah.
That's sort of
Very
his thing.
surprising.
But he says Syndicate gives you a great set of tools that make shooting at the world around you a lot of fun, whether you're playing alone or with a team. I can agree with most of that.
Sure.
Games
Not,
radar.
it's not 5 out of 5.
Games Radar, not Joystick. Come on, Brian, get your stuff together. Alexandria Hall from Games Radar said, from the radiant neon of the training mission to a massive sun-drenched flotilla under the azure skies of the Atlantic Ocean, Syndicate's production values are impeccable. That's a pretty sentence. I like it.
I'm a writer.
Yeah.
Point of order.
Yeah?
Alexandra Hall.
Alexandria.
Alexandria Hall is somewhere in Europe, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a library or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
So Games Radar gave it a 3.5 out of 5. The Escapists gave it probably right around where I would have given it, a 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Syndicate is a decent, albeit uninspired shooter. While there are a few highlights, it mostly feels bland and homogenized from other games and cyberpunk fiction.
I
can't agree with that reasoning, but
No, not the
wrote-
reasoning. No.
No, I agree with every word of that.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fairly accurate.
Yeah. I went to look up the sales numbers for this game, and I could have sworn these were wrong. It only sold 160,000 copies worldwide.
Like, they can fit
No,
more
no,
people
no.
in soccer stadiums.
no, that's the 360 version only.
No, is it?
The PS3 version sold another 140,000. It sold
Oh, really?
300,000 total.
Okay.
Yeah, and you
That's
have to
a little better.
remember. You have to remember too. Places like Steam and places like Origin don't publicly report their sales data.
That's
I'm like
true.
moving into work mode here, but there could be a significantly larger amount of units sold on digital platforms, but they don't report them. So
I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
But still, between the two biggest consoles of the day, 300,000 is
yeah, it
that's
didn't.
pretty low.
It didn't.
And we-
It
and
did
we-
not sell very well.
We do mention that every month that it is only physical copies,
Yeah.
but so we kind of have a sort of a bar from month to month that we're kind of used to because it never includes digital sales. And man,
Yeah.
160,000 is what 5% of what we usually see.
Yeah, like most of the games. I mean, like last month, what was it? Metal Gear was something crazy in the first couple of years. It was like 6 million.
Millions. Yeah.
Well, I think when you look at Syndicate from a sales perspective, I think its marketing did no service at all
No.
at really any point. Its launch trailer was largely criticized for trying to ride the wave of dubstep and doing it very poorly, even
Yes.
though it was a song by
Skrillex.
Skrillex.
Yeah, it's one of the boss themes, actually.
Oh, that's right.
Syndicate?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think at every point EA tried to ride the wave of Starbreeze being a popular and well-regarded developer, but never really found the marketing niche for this game, and I think that hurt it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the release window didn't help much either. I mean, that
So let me
time of year is kind of rough.
dovetail on that.
Yeah.
If you did you plunk out $60 for this? What did everybody pay for it?
So when I bought it and beat it when it originally came out, I think I paid like 40 or 50. I don't know if I paid full 60 for it.
20.
Did you feel that was okay?
At the time, yeah, I was pretty happy with it.
Really?
Yeah.
I paid $10.
I think I was riding high off of Deus Ex at the time, though. Because this came out the year after Human Revolution came out, and I was kind of like, I just need some cyberpunk.
I need some future stuff.
Just put it in my veins.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
that
I
$10
don't
to
feel bad
$20
about. I
that
don't
$10
feel
to
bad
$20
about.
price point is good, I think.
Yeah.
I think I would feel bad if I paid $50 or $60 for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the 360. I must have traded it or something or loaned it to somebody, but I don't have the 360 version anymore. But I don't know if I bought it on Origin or got it in a bundle or something, but I own it on
They
Origin.
just gave it to you.
Yeah, I just happened to have it.
Well,
so.
I
Don't
think
laugh,
when-
they do that.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
they legit just give away games. Like
I
Jade
think-
Empire was free this month.
I think Scott is on the right path, though. I think this and famously Kane and Lynch 2 are which is a game I actually enjoy. These are the games that when you talk about value propositions, these are top of your list. Where it's like, okay, it's $60 and sure, it's a campaign that's X number of hours, that's less than 10, and sure, the multiplayer is fine, but it's not going to keep me coming back. So.
Yeah.
For my $60, what did I really get out of this game?
No,
More
I
importantly-
totally get that.
More importantly, it's not what you got; it's what the other offerings on the table can give you too for the same money.
Yeah.
Sure, like Deus Ex the year prior.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this is
That's a good point.
This isn't on Steam, but if it were, it would be a great candidate for those 4-packs
Oh,
because the
yeah.
multiplayer is basically Payday.
Oh yeah,
It's Cyberpunk Payday.
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's super fun. So if you had 3 friends and this was your Left 4 Dead or this was your Payday, you could get a lot of mileage out of this because you don't need to have a large player base if you have 3 friends.
That's a good point. Yeah.
For sure. So
I don't have 3 friends.
No, we're
You
right
do on this
here.
call,
So there's a bunch of other games that came out right around this time. We're looking at January through March 2012 for its peers. So not a whole lot of really great stuff came out around this time. It's, you're talking beginning of the year. You've got Final Fantasy 13-2.
I'm like the only defender of that
You know what?
weird game.
That game is terrible.
Yeah, that game is terrible, and it has some bright moments, but
Okay, all right.
man, it's
Yeah.
You
what a
calmed
weird
my
game.
rage.
Soul Calibur 5, which even I didn't play, and I've played every single one of those.
Yeah, that one just landed.
Yeah.
4 was the Star Wars one, right?
Yeah, 4 I actually really enjoyed.
So we don't even have lightsabers. Yeah, I'm out.
The Darkness 2, which previous Game Club game.
21. Episode 21.
21? 21? It was 10,
21.
10 Game Clubs ago? All right. Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning, which is another game I picked up around the same time.
Boy,
but-
we were talking about value proposition earlier. Kingdoms of Amalur is about 150 hours
At least.
for your $60. So
Perfect Game Club
comparatively,
game. Get that
Well,
on
and
the list.
when
It
Rhode
is on the
Island
list, actually.
when
It's
Rhode
mine.
Island took over the game and then owned it, like that fire sale they had for months while those court proceedings were going on, they were giving this thing away at $5 for just months at a time.
oh yeah.
It was pretty great.
Pennies on the hour for your entertainment buck.
Asura's Wrath, Nobbs' personal favorite.
Yeah.
I'd also like to point out that the Vita came out the same month as Syndicate, so I don't know if that had anything to do with the low sales. But
No,
of both of them, honestly, I
I
don't
think
know.
I think we're really seeing the full birth to death of the Vita in this episode.
Probably, yeah.
Well, yeah,
It's
it probably
kind of a bummer.
split the market in half. 160,000 people got a Vita. And then they were too poor to go buy a $60 game.
Yeah.
You had Sega released Binary Domain. SSX came out, which, Boston, I remember you loved. At the time.
It's something.
It was. And here's the only really big one, Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
So
No wonder why Syndicate got skipped over.
Yeah, there's your sci-fi.
But there's a great example of, well, what's a better $60 value?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No
Mass
joke.
Effect, like, hands down. Street Fighter Cross Tekken, I forgot that had actually came out.
Yep.
Journey, Ninja Gaiden 3, which I don't think anyone remembers. And Silent Hill HD Collection, which I only put on here because of the debacle with the voice acting.
And everything else about it?
Well, yeah, but the debacle with the voice acting was the worst part,
Yeah.
personally, as a fan of the game. Normally we say, was this top of the pile overlooked? I don't even know if there was a pile. It was just sort of Mass Effect and everything else.
It came
So
out.
this leads
It did
me to
come out.
ask our guest,
Yes.
how in the world did you suggest this game? I mean, how did
Uh,
you find it to suggest it?
We had talked about it recently on sort of TVGP proper. I think we were talking about games that had been a little bit overlooked or games that I think had some multiplayer component that maybe nobody really went through and played. And I think Knobs went, oh, Syndicate.
Yeah. So he loved that multiplayer.
It's
Yeah, and-
tough, man. It was
Yeah,
not
and-
easy.
And I wanted to recommend it because honestly, I had never gone through and played it as much as I had. With all these other games coming through, when you look at Syndicate, you go, well, I'll get to you later, and then you never really do.
No, you really don't.
And we do one of these a month. You do one of these every week. Like, you have to play a lot of stuff, and stuff's just going to fall off the radar.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at Syndicate and you look at Final Fantasy 13-2, and Mass Effect 3 in the same period of time, and then SSX, you go, all right, well, I guess you're number 4, buddy, and then
Yeah.
more stuff keeps coming up.
Yep. Okay. So let's get into the main meat of this discussion. Let's talk about your first hour, general gameplay, and what did you like about the game. Boston, as the guest.
I played on 360.
Okay.
My first hour is actually on my YouTube channel. I was hoping to live stream this whole thing, and one day I'll get back to the rest of it. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, wink.
Did you finish it?
I played the first hour, and then
Did
at
you
work
finish
today I
it?
watched the
Did
rest of
you?
it on YouTube. So
Cutscenes or actual gameplay?
the full game. So
Okay.
in my full 8-hour workday today, I had time to watch this game. I think the first hour makes it really hard to like this game. I think.
No, I disagree with that.
Well, I think the rest of the game does the game a lot more of a service. But I think in the first hour, I think it's throwing a lot of terms at you, and it's trying to set up the game's world, and I think it has a hard time getting its footing. I think once it gets past the first hour, I think it does a really great job at doing that. But early on, it's very much the corporations and the syndicates, and I'm not the bad guy. I'm your fellow agent. You know, like there's a lot of stuff happening, and I think it has a hard time setting all that up. And I think the DART system is a real chore at the very beginning until you get at least 2 of your abilities or powers or chip
Applications.
Applications.
Yeah,
So,
EXEs.
yeah.
Get it?
I think
Because executables.
Get out.
I think until you get 2 of those, I think the game very much feels like like it's trying to almost be Stranglehold, where you have a bunch of enemies, you kind of have to slow down time, and I felt a little burdened by it, but it got way better after you got some stuff in your arsenal.
Yeah. To speak to like the Dart overlay, I loved it.
It's super cool looking.
It's super cool looking. It's detective vision, but it actually gives you like the time slowdown.
Mm-hmm.
I was a huge fan of just the way it transformed, because you don't get to see everything. You only see like, okay, you can sort of see the outline of most of your environment, and it just focuses in on your enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Which don't always show up either, which is nice.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not a win button.
No,
They only
Right.
show up if you've already seen them.
Yes.
Right.
It means it's not a win button.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I feel is fair. I thought that was a really good design choice. So it's not just like go into a room, hit this button, and then blat, 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 5 guys in the head, and you haven't even seen them yet.
Yeah. I would also like to say that Michael Wincott saying that he's not the bad guy is like Nixon saying that he's not a crook.
Yeah.
Can't
get away from that voice.
Even if you do blat those 5 guys in the head, though, there's like another 55 hanging out, with their punch cards, waiting to sign into work and their coffee.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
or
We'll
you go
get there.
next. I'm gonna jump over the wall.
It's super populated with enemies that come out of nowhere.
I think the Dart interface did kind of empower you in a really fun way to kind of juggle shooting guys and hacking stuff at the same time, because it slowed down stuff enough to say, all right, I'm going to hack this turret and it's going to do some stuff, and then I'm going to hack this guy and persuade him and have him do a bunch of stuff. I think it gave you the opportunity to do that instead of feeling like the enemies are closing in on you and you have to gun the whole time. It gave you a little bit of an option. I think that was smart.
When they gave you a good chunk of Dart meter too, and well, it's in my list, but I want to ask now: do we ever find out what Dart stands for? Because that's an acronym. It's
Yeah,
DART
It's
system.
all caps. I wonder if it's somewhere in Giant Bomb's
Oh,
wiki.
look it up.
Yeah.
I tried doing a cursory Google search earlier today, and I went, these 2 wikis didn't have it. I'm done.
Fair
Yeah.
I'm sure it's somewhere in that mountain of data tapes or holotapes that you find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy moly, the amount of information.
You mean the story?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Here's
in
the
between
thing
all
with
the,
that.
the beer cans that get highlighted and just are not interactable.
Here's the thing that I had a disagreement with as far as it came to all of that information. It presented the information in such a confusing way, because it's talked about all of these, like the DART system, but they never set up, sort of in layman's terms, what all of this information is. They just kind of threw you into this world, I thought.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that was really missing, that was presented really well in the original Syndicate games, where especially in Syndicate Wars, they have a similar chip system that it's exactly the same thing. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But in the intro of Syndicate Wars, it shows what the world looks like when you have the Dart chip, whatever it's called in that game, in you, and it's this very blue sky and green grass and white picket fence European city, and it starts malfunctioning, and you see the kind of Blade Runner look underneath it, and you can see it flashing back and forth as it's malfunctioning. I felt like that was a much better description of it, because it makes sense why you would want to get this Dart chip, because it made the world look habitable, and it not only did it highlight, it did all these cool stuff, like you saw whatever the Rosario Dawson, her talking on the phone just in her apartment. It does all this stuff, but it seems like it had maybe ulterior motives behind it.
Yeah.
God, could you imagine? Did you guys see the TF2, the Team Fortress 2 video with the pyro, where they were like, meet the pyro?
Yes.
And the whole world. Oh, God, what was the song they were playing? Was it So Happy Together or something?
I think so.
Yeah.
But it's the pyro running around that level in Diablo with all the unicorns and the ponies and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just shooting rainbows out of his rainbow cannon, or her rainbow cannon, who knows, at all the enemies, and he'd shoot a flower and the flower would explode into bubbles that all smiled, and it gets cut in between him just burning people alive. I would have loved that. That would have been really cool. They don't have to go goofy with it, but that would have been cool here. I like that idea.
Nice.
Yeah, especially with how much they're leaning on cyberpunk and futurism. They never really seem to dive too deep into what happens when this technology goes wrong, because it's focused on this superpowered agent, so you never really get to see anything else. But it would have been kind of neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you do kind of get to see how it goes wrong, because you can hack every guy you come across. So, if you get
That's
a dart,
true.
I can make you kill yourself. So
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
And one of the questions I had is, why does this exist, and what regulation is around it? This is very beyond the scope of the game, probably. But if they're
there might be
programming me,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, if they're programming me with the ability to suicide people, what is stopping Joe Blow from the same technology?
Well,
Nothing.
so in the beginning of the game, they explain that your version of the Dart chip is a prototype. It's completely experimental.
Yeah, but they didn't make it clear that was part of the experimental part.
But I think
I see what you're saying.
I think also
what differentiates my version from every other version? It just says it's a different.
I think that's one of the themes that futurism and cyberpunk always lean on, is kind of, well, here's
awesome.
this.
My fire alarm's going off. I gotta go, guys. I've been taking a bit.
All
Bye.
right. Bye. Don't die on us.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
please don't.
plug the mic here.
That's probably a good idea. Thank you.
Good times.
Oh my God, that's
They found him. The agents.
They found him. He's discovering.
which syndicate is it?
Yeah.
It's probably Eurocorp, because
Probably.
Yeah.
So I think, Scott, to your point, I think that's always one of the themes that futurism and cyberpunk always address, which is this balance between this technology that makes our lives easier and this technology that enriches our lives, but kind of at what cost? I have this chip in my head that will project my email on the wall in front of me without anybody else seeing it, but what does that do not only to me for my health, but where does that blur the line between human and cyborg, and how far do you get down that road? So that was kind of the question that was posed by the original games too, because you could continue to outfit your agents with more and better kind of synthetic muscles and kind of robot parts, and the further you got them from humanity, the stronger they got. But kind of, what were they doing to the people they were supposed to protect, and kind of dancing that fine line.
So this all kind of comes into play too in the final battle. Which, by the way, Hannah, did you get to the final battle?
I played it before. Refresh my memory, though.
So the final battle pits you against, is it Merritt, the revolutionary guy?
Yeah.
And he actually, you start the battle out, and your screen turns white like a flashbang.
Yeah.
And it didn't dawn on me, but that's the Backfire app or exe file.
Yep.
He was using that against you.
Oh, I didn't even
went,
realize that.
I didn't either. I didn't either until about halfway through the fight, and for some reason it popped up on the screen. It said Backfire, and it was in red, and it counted down, and then it blew my screen up. I was like, why hasn't this been implemented before? Why did it wait to the final boss fight?
Right.
I think it could have added another dimension to the game if you had to do something to counteract being suicided, for example.
Yeah.
Or persuaded. How much more depth could you get out of the game?
I think the issue with that, though, is if you had to do that with every enemy, you're talking, especially with the suicide, you're literally talking just a quick time event and you're dead.
No, you don't do it with every enemy. You do it like the liquid armor.
The boss battles.
Boss battles.
Yeah.
There are special other agents that have this ability, right? Clearly they thought of that because they put it in the final boss fight.
Yeah.
Oh, I just think it would have enriched the game.
I think so. Like when you if you, and I'm not saying this is like the way you should play the game, but if you go into the files and you read like about the other agents you fought, like the Aspari agent in the first one that had that like blink move thing.
Yeah.
If you go into his file, it says, okay, well, he has this chip because of the way Aspari develops their chips and their weapons, and they decided to go with this style of chip because of these trade-offs. The reason you don't see it till the end is because you haven't fought another Eurocorp agent.
That makes great sense.
Yeah.
I follow that. But then what bugs me is I couldn't backfire him, and I couldn't suicide him, and I couldn't persuade him. Like, there's some logic holes that need some... At least, you don't have to fill them all the way in, but throw a little dirt on it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it would have made those boss battles a lot more interesting because for most of them, they were just bullet sponges. I mean, there's some stuff, the guy with the rockets.
That was I love that.
Yeah, the rockets was great.
Yeah.
I thought the blink guy at the beginning was fun.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah,
He was a gigantic bullet sponge.
Yeah, I feel like the bullet sponge stuff is probably the biggest. I think they had really interesting... I don't want to use the word gimmick because that's negative. They had interesting things about them to stretch my vocabulary. I just kind of wish it had either they weren't so bullet spongy or it kind of had, like Scott, like you're saying, it had things where you kind of have to counteract whatever they're attempting to do.
How much fun would it have been, though, to have these agents, like the guy with the blink ability, have that sort of played out in every boss battle in some way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be totally interesting. And even like the mini bosses, just having someone that, has like, maybe a chip that isn't as powerful, but he can do like suicide like once or twice to you.
And I actually thought the way they handled the superpowered enemies / mini bosses was really interesting, where you kind of have to hack half their health bar and get that down and kind of have to destroy the other half, and they have those little blips for additional health bars, and you kind of have to continue to do that multiple times. I thought that was handled pretty well, and those weren't very bullet spongy.
No, even the big guys in like the giant suits of armor were not very. And if you read about those guys in the game, I love the way they explain their armor. It's actually, they deflect bullets with micro explosions on the outside of the armor. So as a bullet like gets near them, it just pops an explosion and it deflects it. So as you're hacking it, once you get through their like couple layers of like, I think it's like a blade of armor or whatever it is, the last time you hack it, it actually sets off all those charges at once and kills
Interesting.
them. Yeah.
That's why they explode.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So
that makes perfect sense.
There is so much story in the files and in the little collectibles in this game, and it is buried. And I wish they, like, this is one of the few games where I wish they had been audio logs, because I would have been way more likely to listen to them.
Yeah.
Because it fleshes out this world so much.
You're absolutely right. I think it would have enriched the game.
Yeah, but like
I think it would have changed my opinion.
It's literally like reading like CIA files. These guys.
Do that.
It's crazy.
I couldn't make myself care enough past the first hour.
Exactly.
Past the first 5 or 6 pickups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then there's just so many of them. I mean, you almost get too many of them. So you go into an area, you pick up 4 or 5, and it's like, I can't. I don't want to do this.
You play this and you kind of go, okay, I get why Destiny didn't put the Grimoire in the game.
Sure, yeah.
It would have been like, oh, you have a new Grimoire card. You have a new Grimoire card.
But you know what? That was my first thought, was Destiny, because there's all of these pickups and there's all of this story that's buried outside of the experience of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that what Destiny did? They put all of their story like in their portable device, your phone.
Yeah,
some
here
app?
I think it's a little different here because you can actually in game you can read all this stuff if you want to.
But there's no. What's the difference between in game and on my phone? I still have to put the game down.
So you get it on Destiny. You actually get a notification that's like, "Hey, you got a new reward card. Go to the website to read." And it's like, okay, I have to actually literally go somewhere completely different that's outside of the game, breaking immersion to go read this stuff.
But that's the same thing that happens to me when I hit the start button and go through 2 menus.
And I think when you start digging into it, I don't want to defend Destiny too much, but I like Destiny a lot, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to be its defense squad. I think the main desire behind wanting the grimoire stuff in Destiny itself is there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
You know, you're waiting for something, you're getting a group together, et cetera, et cetera. There is so at that point you could go in and you could start reading some stuff in the grimoire. I think when you look at something like Syndicate, there's so much stuff, and it's written pretty well.
It is.
But there's really no downtime.
No.
You're moving from one thing to another pretty rapidly, and there's no real encouragement for you to say, okay, I got a couple minutes here, I'm gonna go read some stuff.
Putting that stuff on the loading screens would have been a better choice than like the tips they
Oh,
have.
yes. There you go. That's where it goes.
Yeah.
It goes in the loading screens.
At least
And
some little lore here and
Yeah.
there.
I wonder if they couldn't sprinkle it in. Okay, this is sort of a nitpick maybe, but I find it hilarious when you do these future games and you de-res everything. And what I'm referring to are those little news broadcasts they had, right? That were
Yeah.
holograms.
Yep.
This is supposed to be 50 years in our future, and suddenly people have just settled for the idea that they're going to use this incredibly low resolution simulation of a human being.
Yeah,
But
it's
a
very much.
holograph, man.
Yeah, it's very much one of those like purely gameplay things where it's like, all right,
Yes.
I have to convey some information in this world. Clearly, nobody has a TV anymore. I guess a hologram, you know, and
Yeah.
it
Like a
seems a
TV's
little
too boring.
thin.
A TV doesn't fit the world that you're trying to build.
Right.
But it always gives me a chuckle when you look at that critically and say, no one would ever give up their 65-inch 1080p TV.
No.
Right.
Or
and
a 42p hologram.
And unfortunately, you know, they didn't handle it as gracefully as something like Dead Space did.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of part of your equipment and it makes sense in the world with the future.
Right.
You know, it could have made sense that there's an overlay in the dart chip that is in your eyeballs that's showing a little news snippet when you're wandering around the world that you could skip, of course, if you're just kind of motoring through. But that would make a little bit more sense, but might be harder to program.
The funny part is when you pass by those holograms and you hear the audio from them, it automatically picks up as like a text file in your little like inventory thing.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh,
You
interesting.
can actually go back and
Okay.
read most of those.
I just stopped and watched them.
Yeah.
Your comment there about hitting the dart chip reminded me of one of the things that I really enjoyed about the game that didn't come along until too late. And it's there at the beginning. If you go back and watch your stream, Boston, I picked up on it watching your stream, but I didn't pick up on it when I played through. You can actually hit your dart chip and read the propaganda signs, like the hidden message behind them. Did you all do that?
Yes. I discovered
No,
that at the
you know
beginning
what?
of the game.
It came up once where it said like, "Oh, you can see the hidden messages," and I'm looking around in the game like,
Yes.
I don't. Where I don't see anything.
I actually kind of
You
would like
missed
a game
it.
to mess with you. Like
How's
that.
it going, guys?
Hey.
Oh,
Welcome
hey.
back, Jake.
That was scary.
What happened?
It was somebody overcooked their sausage. I don't
Well,
know if
that-
that's a euphemism.
I was going to say, is that
happens.
code? Do we need to come get you?
We were all young once.
It was me. That was the first thing I did. I went downstairs and checked what unit it was. I was, oh, thank God. Because I had a candle going. I was like, really? Did I do this? Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. So Scott, is it almost like They Live, where it's sort of the message behind the message?
It entirely as they live.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I don't think they did a great job. Now, watching your stream was interesting because I guess I wasn't focused on trying to get places. Like, my head was just watching you play. So as soon as you step into that room where it says, look at the propaganda, I went, oh, there it is.
Oh, it's right in front of me.
And you looked at it, but you didn't see it.
Interesting.
Clearly, you didn't see it because you looked around.
Yeah.
And what it is there's a poster and they're not the same poster, but they have the same format type of thing.
Yeah.
And they always have a message along the lines of your core brings a brighter tomorrow. And then you hit your dart chip and it does like this UV light paint sort of thing.
Oh.
And it's always like a twist on that message. So if it's like Eurocore brings us a bright future, and it'll get overwritten with something like Eurocore brings us a dark and despairing future, that type of thing.
Because
Right.
it's opposite day.
Yep. Flip.
Say that again, Jake.
I said it's opposite day.
Exactly, and it's a little more morbid than that at times.
Yeah.
But I didn't discover this until too late in the game, and then once I did, I was on the lookout constantly for these little signs, and they're just amusing. They're just a real nice distraction, I guess, as you're going along.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm actually going back and watching my video here, and there is like this, "Let's get to work, everybody's good" propaganda, and then behind it, it has this almost like spray painted message about how Eurocore is damaging, workers and abusing people.
Yeah.
This is really meta. Can we do like a picture-in-picture of you watching your stream on the stream?
Yeah, exactly. It's me watching me watching me.
It's like plugging a Kinect or Kinect into a Kinect or into your. No, you put the Kinect into the Xbox One and then hook that back into itself, and it just goes into infinity. It'd be
Yeah.
like
Right.
that.
Nice.
So what? I'm sorry. What did I miss? Where are we?
We're still on
done.
What Did You Like?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good transition. Jay-Z, what did you like?
Well, I can catch my breath here.
In
Did we talk about the opening scene?
the percussive maintenance?
Percussive maintenance. Okay, yeah. I was like, I think I said it out loud. Like, they woke me up by beating the hell out of me. Like,
Well, you gotta reboot somehow. That button's stuck, man.
well, and then I think they say it maybe 5-10 minutes later that, your magic tech powers are fueled by adrenaline. It's like, okay, just shake me a little bit. I'll get up. I'll do some jumping jacks. I'll do a couple of squats.
Like pop a balloon next to me. Ugh.
sure.
A hardened agent of the Syndicate.
Yeah.
Pop
Give me a
balloon
little
next
fright.
to him. Oh.
Or just toss a handful of angry squirrels at me or something. It'll
Yeah.
scare me, but it won't, concuss me.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the UI?
No,
A little bit.
specifically, I don't
Not in the
think.
way you probably want to talk about it.
It is real sharp. Like there isn't, and maybe I'm sort of stepping on stuff we already said. So I apologize. I was fleeing for my life.
Fair enough.
I think this game doesn't have a lot of meat to it, but the presentation is fantastic.
What do you mean it doesn't have a lot of meat?
I mean, it's kind of real linear, sort of shoot the same, maybe 4 or 5 type of guys in most rooms. I mean, it's fun. The shooting is fun, but there's not a ton of substance. There's not really any plot.
You know what,
it's
Jake?
quality, but the portion is small.
We just talked about that. I think Hannah sort of refutes that in a way. It's there. You have to dig into it to find it.
Yes. Like,
And-
there's another plate under your plate with a whole other steak on it, but it's mostly
Yes.
made of, like, words.
It's
For
like
example, Jake, I just learned the guys with the armor, right, that you have to hack into.
Mhm.
Apparently, they deflect bullets by causing miniature explosions.
Oh, well, they could have represented that graphically instead of making it look like
Well-
Master Chief.
Well, hang on. You know what happened at the end when you wore those guys down and you killed them? What did they do? Do you
They
remember?
laid there until I murdered their twin.
No, not those.
No, earlier.
All the ones with this liquid armor thing. They explode. Well, there's a reason they explode.
Oh, when you hack it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I
all that's
would
buried.
have liked to see,
It's like
explodies
finding
on
out.
them.
It's like going to a restaurant and thinking their menu is like a one-sheeter, and then you find out, oh, there's stuff on the back, and then you realize you can open it and there's 3 more pages.
It's a
Oh, that stuff's
trifold.
good.
Yeah.
It's trifold explosive armor.
Yeah.
So, Jake, I will agree with you that if you just pick this game up and plow through it like a shooter, there is no depth to it. Agreed.
Well, and I took my time a little bit, but I think I heard you guys talking about it. Sort of the holotape kind of things are fine, but they're real granular and don't really seem to fit together very well, so I gave up on it pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The base story itself is kind of rote and sort of cliche, and that's not. I know that's not for this section, but the reason I bring it up is because the polish around it is amazing. You know, the skybox is crazy. The city was awesome. I hated all the bloom, but I could get past that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hate the bloom. I tell you why I didn't hate the bloom, because it gave this game something that I'm going to remember.
Yeah.
You talk about the bloom game. There's only one bloom game.
Got that Syndicate.
Without the bloom, and I can get why it would annoy
Flower?
you. Yeah,
I think
it's
Flower
like
is technically the bloom game. The bloom game.
which Flower's a great game too.
It is.
Yeah.
But if you take out the bloom of this game, it just becomes another. It's already maybe a generic shooter. It just becomes even more of a generic shooter.
Well, it looks like an Unreal Engine 3 shooter at that point.
And it's not. It's a Union Engine shooter.
Right. Jay-Z, I think you bring up a good point about the UI too, because I feel like that's one piece of the game that Syndicate looks like the future. You know, it looks cool and clean edges, and you know, the bloom, everything looks like sort of the promise of the future. And I think the UI does a really good job of communicating that with you know, even with the little stuff popping up on items in the world that you can't
like
interact with. But
That bugged me.
it bugged me a little bit too, but it you could make sense of it as futuristic information overload. You know, everything looked cool. Like the future should look cool. I thought that was great.
And your HUD was almost Protosian, like Protoss, StarCraft, like
What?
real sharp edges and kind of stuff sort of comes to a point, and it's all silver and shiny, but there's holograms in it. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I thought they did a really great job of, with the holograms on each one of the guns, changing depending on how you're holding it, if you're in cover, if you're zooming in. It kind of morphs and moves around, so you don't zoom in and lose sight of how many bullets you have left. It just kind of moves to the side and looks more like a traditional UI.
Okay, I hate to grind this whole thing to a halt, but Double Fine just announced Psychonauts 2 at the Game Awards.
I gotta go.
Like, I can't not tell you guys that.
See you guys later.
Yeah. Anyway, Syndicate.
So the moving the gun around thing, in general, that was really awesome. But at
The
points,
Kusanagi, the assault rifle where you had the scope and then the side scope.
Yeah.
I hated that
that.
side scope.
Oh, I love that side
It was
I
scope.
thought
like-
it was an interesting idea, but didn't really work.
It was like a
Love
giant
that.
annoyance, like a growth.
well, we know that guns look cooler when you hold them sideways.
They do. Absolutely.
That's true. It's just math.
Yeah.
But when you get the minigun, which those sections were great.
Though, yeah, that
Yeah.
that train
Mini
fight
guns were awesome.
was amazing.
Yeah.
So like if you try and take cover behind the wall at any point and then sort of pop up and try and sort of shoot over it, you actually lift the minigun up like over his shoulders and point it down. And I'm just picturing this dude like he's looking through a submarine periscope, except it's a minigun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
that animation was interesting.
Yeah, the whole minigun, that was probably my favorite mission in the whole game, was that going through the train, getting on top of the train, and then taking out that drop ship.
It's one of those times where they give you a minigun and they encourage you just to hold down the trigger and just spray. Like, it doesn't really overheat ever.
And
you have
it-
infinite ammo.
And it literally saws dudes in half.
Yeah.
Oh, the future's so cool.
Yeah, it is.
I can't wait for our mega corporation overlords.
Right?
Yeah,
the last one we
E1M1 Network. Wait, what?
the E1M1 Syndicate.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the last one we played? Rapture, Evolve, not Evolve. Where you were on the space station zooming around on your butt.
What?
Wait, what?
What? in the
With the
world
Vanquish?
slow-mo?
are you
Vanquish.
talking
Thank you.
about?
Vanquish.
Vanquish?
Where it
Zooming
reminded me
around
of
on your butt.
That's
He's
actually
not
quite
wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know how you played.
Yeah.
I was not zooming on my butt. Maybe that's why I did it wrong. Maybe.
Probably,
Maybe.
yeah.
It reminded me of the best level in that too on the train.
Yeah, you're right.
Just
Oh, yeah.
great backgrounds and good sweeping music and great. Just great.
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you guys talk about the models at all?
Not specific. I don't think we really touched on the graphics other than sort of like, hey, this game's kind of pretty.
Yeah.
The models themselves, and it really stands out for, I think her name's Lily, Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This sounds creepy to say, but the model was hot.
Oh, Jake, every episode, there's a moment where I put my hands on my forehead.
I'm not saying I'm going to go all Second Life. I'm just saying that it's
thank
rare. You know, like what's her name in Half-Life 2 is supposed to be hot, but she's not. The polygon count's not there, and it's okay. She's supposed to be pretty in the game or whatever. It was crazy, the attention to detail in the models.
Yeah.
I don't know what this says about me, but I always kept thinking, boy, that looks a lot like Brian Cox.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but they captured his likeness well.
They did.
And I don't know what the
Michael
that Gravely
Wincott.
Merit dude looks like. So
Michael Wincott. He's so great.
whatever.
He was the voice of Death in Darkness 2.
Right.
And
He did a good job.
Did I
as-
say
in
Darkness 2?
you just said
Darksiders 2.
Darksiders.
Darksiders too, yeah.
Yeah.
He did a great job in that.
He did.
Didn't sound as evilly in this one.
Ironically, as Death. Yeah.
I'm totally not the bad guy in
Yeah.
Syndicate. Trust me.
You know what's interesting about that is we joke about him being the bad guy, but he's not really the bad guy.
No, he's really not.
The story is sort of like you rebel against the corporation, and he's just doing his job. He's just doing what you were doing a couple hours earlier.
He's
true.
just an agent. Like he's not. He's nobody is good in this story, but nobody is really bad either. Even
Yeah.
the Lily's side.
They really do try make an effort to make the CEO Denham.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
They really try to
Denham?
demonize him. They really try to get you to sympathize with, or not sympathize, but to vilify him because he's robbing kids from their parents.
Yeah.
Which is your backstory, right? That you were
Yeah.
taken in cold blood.
Yeah.
What a twist.
So
It's a twist.
I liked the bosses. There weren't a ton of them, but they had what I think was a really good challenge level. Did you guys go over what you played on so far?
I played on easy.
normal.
I played on normal.
Okay, I did normal too. And before when the game got voted in, I was talking to a buddy of mine about it who had played it when it came out, and he was like, "Man, that last boss, real tough. I had to
What?
quit the game." And yeah, I actually thought the first boss was probably the hardest.
Yes, I agree
Yeah.
with you, Jake.
Yeah.
You know what? The thing that popped into my mind, did you guys ever play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game?
Yeah.
All I could think of was that Shredder fight at the end of that game.
Oddly specific, but
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah, okay.
It's the same fight.
Yeah.
Little shootier.
Yeah.
My trouble, I think, with the first boss fight was that I didn't understand that little trauma bar that showed up in the upper right-hand corner. Actually, I'll level this criticism throughout the entire game. It never gave me enough information for anything. It puts this trauma
Which is
bar up there,
ironic.
but doesn't tell me what it is. Is that my trauma?
Am
that
I
his
under trauma?
You're just feeling worse and worse the more you shoot this
No,
guy.
Yeah.
You missed my
Just
point,
racking
though.
up psychiatrist bills like it's a gas pump.
You missed
Yeah.
my point. I didn't see it until there's a little bit taken out of it. I didn't get that there was a progression to it. I didn't understand which way it was going. I didn't understand who it applied to because everything else on your HUD is you.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the crazy part. It would be in universe to say enemy agent health.
Yeah.
Yes.
It would make sense in the game. They could have just put that.
Yes. See, that would change everything. You instantly understand what that is. The other thing is
yeah.
I didn't understand I was hitting the guy for damage.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah.
So I'm shooting him and I'm putting clip after clip into him. And he's not really slowing down. He's not really giving me any feedback that he's getting damaged. Other than the
than
trauma
that-
bar's moving. And after I figured out the trauma bar related to him and I understood I actually was damaging him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then the fight became different and easier.
For sure.
I would say the opposite. I thought that
Of course you would, Jake, because you're you're my
you are
Yankee-
Scott's foil.
Ever the contrarian.
Yes.
man, you just made me lose my train of thought.
Haha. Big words.
Okay, so I think all right, I got it. I'm back.
Choo.
I think the feedback that they gave you was sort of God, I lost it again. Okay, let me put it this way. If I couldn't tell as much when I was not hurting him as to when I was, because you got to break his shield and then start popping him. And if we had some I don't know, visual element of your bullets exploding before they got to him, I feel like I would have caught on quicker. But once the
He didn't
trauma
have a
bar,
shield, did he?
he might not have, but popped him enough that it was going down pretty quick, so I figured it out pretty quick. But like on the later guys who have the shields that you have to crack, those took me a while to figure out what I was supposed to be doing because I was just, like you said, unloading clip after clip and doing nothing.
But they give you that indication. They tell you that they're immune.
Yeah, they pop it above their head. In
Yeah,
that
but-
case, it was weird because his information wasn't above his head; it was on your UI.
Yeah.
I think
That's
is the
my
complaint.
confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Everything else
inconsistent.
takes place in world, so to speak, right? The enemies in world are highlighted. Everything static relates to you.
Yeah.
But what about when you're selecting guys to persuade them or whatever?
That's
that looks
all-
like your UI.
No, that's all
It
hovering
floats-
above them.
It floats over their head. It's attached to them on your UI.
Yeah, it's not anchored
If they
to
move,
a
it moves.
nothing point in space. in
Oh,
your
the
vision
trauma
window.
thing was pinned to the top of the screen.
Yes,
That's
Right.
right.
static.
Yeah,
So-
it's just inconsistent.
I didn't notice it until maybe it's a third of the way down, and at that point, I didn't know if it related to me. Like he shot me, and if he shoots me so much, then I don't know, I explode. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, because it's the first time you've fought an enemy agent, so it's all kind of new stuff.
Yeah.
When they just threw that weird cutscene at you that they did with all the bosses of you hacking
No,
into
pew,
them.
pew, oh, hacking! Oh, failed! Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah.
Future.
I didn't like that because it shows up that failed message, and I'm like, well, did I do something wrong?
Yeah, is this a QTE that's terrible? Like, what?
Quick cut to Sandra Bullock, override.
Nice.
But
My big criticism is that it didn't give you the feedback necessary to make decisions or to understand what was happening.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just period across the board.
that's a fair criticism. I maybe I just got lucky on picking it up that first time.
I'll give you another example too, real quick. Level design drove me bananas. It got worse as you
Let's
got
talk
deeper
about
into the
this.
game.
Yeah.
This is my biggest problem in this game.
Yeah.
Can I
Yes.
say one more good thing and then we can move on to the garbage?
Yeah.
Yes.
The sound design on the guns is incredible.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are booming guns.
Especially that like blue laser lightning thing
The-
at the end. That
My two favorites were the Kusanagi, the sniper version, not like the assault rifle version, because that thing was a one-hit kill
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, and the Gauss rifle,
Yep.
because you just pull that left trigger, lock on, and it's the I don't feel like aiming gun.
and
I
that's
did like
actually
that one.
that's actually a direct holdover from the original Syndicate games too.
Nice.
There's two big things. One is that, and then the other one is remember the first time you have the suicide thing, and you go to the room where two people are interrogating a person, and you
Yes.
have the one guy suicide, and he takes out everybody in the room.
Yes.
They referenced the Persuadatron, which is this famous item from the first two games.
Yeah.
So I was that was one moment where I was like, ha, awesome.
Does it look like the Fallout 3 Mesmertron? Like a big satellite dish on the front? And whoop, 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 whoop.
No, I wish that would have been pretty cool.
But that's a great example, though, of how you can incorporate a tutorial in a game with gameplay and not need a black and white wireframed 4-minute
Ugh.
explanation.
Yep.
Yeah, those
I
were a bummer.
instantly understood what Suicide did
Yes.
Yeah.
just from that scene.
And it's
So-
safe for you to do because they're not going to shoot you. They don't even see you. It's just this,
Right.
hey, here's this left bumper on your screen. Oh, look what happens. That was kind of cool.
Oh no, what happened? And I kind of like that you could do the breach spikes like the active reload in Gears.
Yeah, way more information needed behind that. It
Yes.
took me a while to figure out, oh, that gives me extra experience?
Something like
or
that.
points?
Wait.
if I
Okay,
did that.
okay.
It was dart juice.
Dirt juice.
Is that what it did?
Yeah, it gives you extra recharge.
That would have been
That
great
game
to
just
learn.
drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did it tell you that?
I just
In the
remembered it from
tutorial.
my first playthrough.
I'm
So all
fairly
I
sure they
saw-
said it like right when they teach you about the dart meter.
Yeah.
I must have.
Probably when
But
you're
it's-
getting shot by
honestly
15
missed it.
dudes.
Well, and it's way too early in the game. Like they need to give you like maybe half an hour in the game or whatever they did. Tack 20 minutes onto that before they tell you about it, so you have a frame of reference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make that like not even an application. That's like a DLL you downloaded.
Yeah.
Yes, that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was getting ready to rant about level design.
Yes. Go for
yeah,
it.
let's
So
do
about
it.
The thing that drives me absolutely insane in video games, and especially with level design, is if you put a door that I can go through, Do not make more doors that look exactly like that door that I cannot.
Yep.
You can't do that. I spent so much time running at doors that didn't open.
I actually
and
wrote...
some you get to
Turn around.
charge. Some you have to charge at.
Yeah, which is even worse.
Yep.
I actually wrote a note about this in that there's so much subtle, subconscious level design stuff that games do nowadays and have done for the last couple of years where it's like, all right, all these other doors are dark, but this one has a light above it and it's flickering, so you know you probably need to go that way. Or all the other ones have a giant red thing that says security lockdown, except for this one, so I probably have to go that way.
Yeah.
This game is disinterested in doing any of that, or if it does it, it's this teeny little yellow light next to the door that none of the other doors that look exactly like it have.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
impossible to differentiate.
Well, and here's my question. This was like the period of time where the idiot line was like in vogue.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
This was like when that was like all the rage.
I thought about that a lot.
Why this game needed it. This game 100%
No,
needed it to
this
make
game
up for
just
some of the
needed better level
navigational like
design.
failings.
Well,
Yeah, levels, they're
I
all
think
pretty
it
linear.
could- I think it could have both.
They
but
are. Sorry, they are, but they aren't because of these stupid doors.
Yeah. And you land yourself in these rooms and sort of like, okay, well, do I need to run through this thing, or there's 20 different doors in this area? And I
Let me
think...
give you. Sorry, Boston.
Oh.
This just
Well,
got me fired up.
This is
Well,
our show now, son.
Yeah, you sit down.
Oh, well, I think what's really interesting about the Hannah's point about the idiot line is, again, I think that's in universe. I think it would make sense for you to say, okay, navigational something or other, a nav beacon, whatever,
Yep.
and it just draws a stupid line on the floor, or at least it points an arrow and says, go out this door.
Yes.
Or
It
just
would
a-
make sense.
In dark
Or,
mode,
I got a better
This
idea,
is
yeah.
hackable.
Oh,
Sure.
Yeah.
But my example of this poor level design is you come down a hallway near the end of the game and it tees. It goes left and it goes right. If you go left, actually, if you stand in the hallway, look left, you see a door. If you stand at the hallway, look right, you see the identical door on the other side. If you go left, nothing. It's a dead end hallway. The door doesn't open. If you go
man.
right, the door opens.
Ooh.
That's
The
so
only
bad.
difference is what Boston talked about, a little light on the door, which from the T in the hallway doesn't look any different.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's actually in engine. That's another security measure to fool agents.
Yes.
Right.
Okay,
All
listen
right.
to justifying thing.
That's the genius of these architects.
My other big complaint, and I'll shut up for a little bit. This about made me put the game down. I was in a party with Soul Man, and Soul Man had so many F-bombs flying at him. I feel sorry for his ears. But it was the elevator scene where I think you're having to pull an elevator down to you. You get onto the elevator, you go up, and then they like break into it or something, and it stops between floors.
Oh yeah,
So
that
there's
first
this
mission where you're
section.
in the Undercity.
There's this section where the elevator comes up, it stops. There's maybe 3/4 of an opening between floors. You shoot some bad guys, and then nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
And you're
Oh,
stuck
right.
in this elevator. There are 2 doors. There's one on one side. There's one on the other. They don't go anywhere. They don't open.
Nope.
I try to get through the opening. Can't get through the opening. I walk around. Literally nothing is happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm yelling at Soul Man. I'm swearing. I go out to YouTube to look up a walkthrough, and I couldn't believe it. The guy had the same problem I did. He spent like 2 minutes running around this little 10 by 10 room elevator.
Yeah.
He ends up, it almost looks like you break the game by glitching through the opening.
Ooh.
It's not straightforward at all.
Weird.
I
Yeah, I
didn't
think I
have
know
a
what you're
problem
talking.
with that.
I know what you're talking about. I didn't have to like glitch through it or anything. I just crouched and went through. Like
Yeah.
You couldn't. I
Really?
crouched, but you couldn't walk through because the elevator is between floors and there's a lip. They wouldn't let you just walk through.
Oh,
I tried crouching and jumping. I couldn't get through. I tried jumping. I couldn't get through. You had to do this side little wiggle thing.
Weird.
You know, that actually that leads me to another complaint here too, because yes, that is terrible.
Yeah.
But there are so many things that you have to interact with in this game where if you're on top of him, it has the X button and it you hold X and it says use or break or something like that. But when you're just far enough away from it that it's in the UI but it hasn't lit up yet, it is almost exactly the same color as every wall in this game. Like the wall and this text are the exact same gray color, and it drove me nuts.
Yeah. There's no highlighting on anything to like indicate like, oh, this is the thing you need to be looking for.
Again, I'm going to say that's an agent countermeasure. They know what the font looks like, so they paint the walls to match the color.
You're a monster.
This is a no-brainer. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I'm glad you brought that up, Boston, because that leads me to a little side, I guess, the tangent off of that. Why in the world is the use button on your screen if you can't use it like by pressing the button? You had to be in just the right orientation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that about drove me insane, maybe it did, and I don't know it yet.
Probably.
Why in the world do you have to hold the button for a split second? Why isn't a button press good enough?
And that's drove me crazy because there's nothing else in these rooms except for the one door you can go into. Or this game has the God of War problem where you can't just open a door. You have to like super wrench it open, and it takes so much effort. You know, but to do that, you have to hold the X button. There's nothing else in this room. It's just this door. Let me just hit X, or when I walk near it, just start a cutscene. I don't know which one of these doors opens. Please help me.
Yeah.
I think I have an answer, and this is not a canonical joke. I think it's an engine issue, because the models sort of the way they built the movement. I've been racking my brain trying to think of another game that did this. But like when you let go of the analog stick, your guy will come to a stop, but then he'll sort of like take one more step and it'll lurch forward a little bit.
Yeah.
I bet it's something having to do with that and sort of like the activation sort of rings
interesting.
or whatever.
I was going to say might be a way to disguise loading screens.
That's true, It is old enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mashing stuff, I mean, specifically.
It is not always the case.
Okay.
Because you pick up a collectible, what's it loading?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no downside to picking up a collectible.
Other than the fact you're going to have this half a second, which doesn't sound like a big problem, right? Until you do it 100 times.
But it makes sense for guns, because you don't want to accidentally pick up the wrong gun.
Right.
But this database sitting on a laptop, who cares if I accidentally hit X and pick it up? Like, that doesn't...
You said there was no downside. Was there an upside to grabbing these things?
We talked about it already.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all that backstory that you complained about not having.
Yeah,
Cool.
interesting in-world lore that does not present itself very well.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I got a complaint.
Sure.
Yeah.
Dataverse.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's it.
Dataverse.
Cut that word right out of there.
Yo, I kind of like that word. Really?
It's to me it sounds like interwebs.
Yeah.
It gets under my skin and I hate it. Just
know.
on principle of the word.
I think
you
that's
guys
why I had a hard
remember-
time getting into the lore, because it has its own language. And that language isn't conveyed to you. There is no easing you into it. They just drop you into it.
But sort of by context, you can figure out what word they were trying to use for what the real word is.
Yeah.
You can, but it drove me a little batty. And I just didn't have the care about the game to put the effort into deciphering this message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those. I accept a weird word for cyberspace as a cyberpunk trope, I think.
That's fair.
And I'm just sort of okay with it, because you can't call it cyberspace because it makes you sound like you're a million.
Right.
And you can't just call it the internet because that's boring.
But it's so much more than just the internet. It's the
whole
dataverse.
Dataverse. It's
But
big
it was
data.
If you only get the
data.
Dart 6 chip in your head, you can do this and so much more.
Indeed.
Eurocore.
It was everything, though, Hannah. It was everything.
I know.
It wasn't just those words.
It
Yeah.
was all. It was all of the words.
Everything had a code word.
I
Yes.
think that Hannah is right. That does. I am a big fan of cyberpunk, and I am casually interested in futurism, and that does seem like it's like a sci-fi novel problem too, where it's not food. It's this nutrient paste.
Wait, I got it. It's another canonical answer.
Huh?
That's the buzzword that Eurocore came up for it. That is a trademarked word.
Yeah.
They've trademarked Dataverse, so it has to be in all their literature.
That actually kind of makes sense.
That
Yeah.
actually totally makes
That
sense.
does make sense. My complaint isn't that. My complaint is they don't ease it in any way.
No.
Yeah.
For example, Harry Potter, you get eased into that world.
Yeah,
through
they translate
Harry.
it for you. Yes.
Right, it gets translated as you go. So by the time you're into the last book, you've got a whole different language.
Yes.
If you jump into the last book of Harry Potter, it's a foreign language sometimes.
Yeah.
There's, just as a quick aside, there's always something I remember from someone was interviewing one of the showrunners of the original Star Trek, and they asked him, why don't you have the aliens speak in some sort of alien language, and then someone turns around and translates it? And he goes, I only have an hour.
Yeah.
That's kind of Syndicate's problem, where it's,
Yeah.
can you just call it the interconnected internet or something?
The Internet
you only
of
have an
Things.
hour. Like, it doesn't need to be this something. I don't know, this pretentious.
I
potential.
totally see that point of the argument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it did, though, is it discouraged me from reading those things I was picking up.
Yes, which
Yeah.
is a problem because that's where like a lot of this game sits.
Yeah.
And
And that's where I think you ease people in. The first few pickups are very plain language. By the end, the last pickup can be this complicated gibberish.
Yeah.
And more
Sure,
than that, it is Elder Scrolls wall of text level by that point.
Yeah.
And it's all orange.
oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a shame because, talking about things we didn't like, when it came to that ending cutscene where you're facing down Brian Cox, I kind of didn't care.
Yeah.
Like, you came back to it did that the screen goes black and you mash X and you jump up
Yeah.
and he goes, oh, that's such a shame, and then he kills himself.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't care why. I don't care that I got triple crossed by about 4 people. Cool. Now I see the credits and we're done. And I feel like there's such a cool universe and there's so much they could have done with really great actors that they just kind of didn't.
Well, let me ask you this, Boston. Would it have made that better when he jumped down the endless pit if there was Star Wars Emperor Purple Lightning shooting off of him into the walls as he
Absolutely. Always.
fell? Okay. We can probably mod that in. Oh, no,
yeah,
Origin.
perfect.
Crap.
And I think for me, one small thing I didn't like to add on top of that, I thought Brian Cox had a great performance. I think he chewed the hell out of the scenery in that game in only a way that he can. I thought that whatever gravelly voice dude did a pretty good job. I feel like Rosario Dawson kind of slept through that game.
She did. I totally agree with that.
There were a couple of instances where she got really angry and was starting to throw around a lot of pretty serious language, and I thought that was where her performance really shone. But other than that, and I gotta say, one quick thing I liked, most games don't do this. Most games, when a character interrupts another character, you get that little dash on the screen and it like loads the next screen. You had 2 characters talking over each other in this game, and very few games do that. So good job on you, Starbreeze.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God they didn't just make you go, uh-huh, uh-huh,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
uh-huh, yeah.
Sounds good. Yep.
That's a Fallout 4 joke for those who haven't played.
Go on.
I had one more line. We already talked about it, but I thought the line was funny, so I have to say it. This game had more bloom than The Wizard of Oz.
I like that though, but I like J.J. Abrams having some lines.
I like this game has more bloom than a Nirvana reunion.
Oh,
Hey,
nice.
That's a little darker.
Yeah. I can get behind that.
Also, my reference, a little more timely. Just to say.
This bloom has more, or this game has more bloom than Jurassic Park and The Fly combined.
Ooh.
Oh. I do have to say,
that
I
is a
agree
little
with Scott,
gold.
though. I think whether you like it or you don't, it's very distinctive. You don't go into the Syndicate and go, oh man, this really looks like these other 10 games, right? Like, Battlefield has sort of pulled some of that in as it's gone, but it's a pretty unique looking game.
It is.
Which is why I disagreed with the Escapist review earlier about it being an uninspired shooter, and it feels bland and homogenized. I maybe it's because I don't play the Cyberpunk games or things like that. But
The
I didn't see
Cyberpunk
it.
game that comes out every year, you mean?
Yeah, there really aren't that
one.
many. That's why that review seems a little bit left of center. Is that
Yeah.
if you play the game as kind of a standard shooter and you're not doing the hacking and you're not using dart, sure, that's probably a pretty boring experience.
Yes.
But
Yes,
when you
it
start
is.
putting all the systems together and you start doing all this cool stuff, there's not a lot out there that's similar to this game at all.
They could have
So-
done more with the upgrades. I feel like that was there was a lot of potential there.
How many upgrades do you get throughout the course of the game?
I don't even know.
6.
Yeah, I
Like
was
20
confused.
options, and you can
Right.
use 6.
The game does encourage you to play through it again. I think to sort of almost do a score attack thing because of how you get scored at the end of every milestone, I think
mean-
the chapters were
They
called.
call
You mean your performance review?
Yes, your performance review, which is kind of
wait,
fun.
How does that not fit in game though? How perfect is that?
It's
Yeah.
so great. I love that.
But there's doesn't seem to be there's no real encouragement to go back through that stuff a second time.
You know,
That was-
they need a new game plus, and there is none, and that disappointed me because I think I would have started over again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
play it over again on hard. Like,
But I don't
Nah.
want to start from the beginning, and I don't want to go through those tutorial levels, and I don't want to give up all my stuff.
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry. I was segueing into like off of that thing. Instead of New Game Plus, if you get to keep all your stuff, okay, yeah, I'll go play on hard like Dead Space. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do it.
That's a great example. Yeah.
The one thing I thought the game suffered a little bit in the middle, where they take your persuasion, they take everything away from you at one point.
That was a poor decision.
Where you
it-
fall into that one area and you
The
like crack your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
where
everything
does-
gets taken away from you, and that's fine, but it went on too long.
That is a
Yeah.
Starbreeze thing though, because have you guys played Chronicles of Riddick?
Not enough of it.
So they take all of your stuff away in that game like 3 times.
So it's like the worst abilities because it does it like 5 hours in.
Well, okay, so you keep like once you so you know Riddick, he's got the eye shine. Once you get that, you keep it, but like you get all these guns and stuff, and it's not like a game where you only get like 1 or 2 guns at a time. Like you keep all those guns. Every time you get pulled back into that prison, they take away your guns, and it happens at least twice, if not a third time.
The screen
much
comes up and this block letter says busted, and they take all your guns and money and $100 and put you back on the
Wasted.
street.
Good times.
Yeah, but I just
I
find
didn't
that
disagree
interesting.
with
It's the
that.
same problem.
I didn't disagree with that decision because I think that's almost to be expected in a way. You handicap the player, you give them all this stuff, and then you handicap the player and you give it all back.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
complaint is that they didn't give it back quick enough.
Yes.
Because I
Yeah.
got to the point where I got the best part of this game, where this game shines, and we've talked about, when you get that combination of hitting the dart chip interface, hacking somebody, and shooting them. When all of that is in sync, this game is great.
It is. You gotta like claw
Doesn't
hand that
happen
controller
often
to make it
enough.
all happen too.
Yeah. And it doesn't happen often enough. It's almost like a first-person puzzle shooter.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah,
that was
that's
actually
a
one
good
of the
point.
things I missed when we were doing What Did You Like? I love when they use the hacking as a puzzling element.
No.
was
But not,
so
not in the
cool.
tutorials.
Not the tutorials, but like the
No.
the third mission where you've got the elevators and you're moving them up and down to navigate that,
That
level.
was-
I
that
really
was
liked
cool.
that.
That was cool.
I did not enjoy at all the puzzle at the end, right before the final boss fight. It's a door, and it's got a lock on each side and a ring of lights. One lock controls like one inner ring, and the other lock controls the outer
Oh,
ring.
yeah.
And you have to do it. You have to do it quickly.
You just
But
use the dart.
It's the only puzzle that way. And my complaint is, once I figured out how to use the dart, I still couldn't do it because you have to step so far back.
That's
You have
fair.
to swing quick enough between. The timing is so quick that you have to be so far back from the door.
It's too precise for an imprecise
Yes.
game.
Yes.
On the other hand,
it's
I'm going to be
unnecessarily precise.
I'm going
Once
to
I
be the
figure
devil's
out the
advocate.
dart- What's that?
I'm going to be the devil's advocate. I think it was like 10 minutes before that you fought the boss that was jumping around on the platforms and launching all the missiles at you,
No.
where you had
that
to
was-
dart.
No, that was hours before that.
Okay, well, regardless, they've taught you that mechanic earlier in the game, so I feel like that's fair play. The window was tight.
No.
That's a legitimate criticism.
No,
Yeah.
My complaint is this isn't a boss fight. This isn't an enemy. This is me going through a door.
Yeah, I
Okay.
feel
Why
like
does it take me 5 minutes?
I feel like most games would have reversed that, where it would have taught you that via the door before you go and fight the boss battle, and you're like, oh right, I just did that to get into
Yes.
this room. Cool, now I'm gonna throw this guy's somethings back at him.
The swarm missiles. I love
Swarm
all the
missiles.
guns in this game, like unabashedly.
Yeah.
All right. So I think, is that everything we didn't like? Boston, did you have anything extra?
No, I think we hit on
Yeah.
it.
Good lines or great moments? Any standout performances or standout moments of dialogue?
I think Brian Cox's final lines in this game were suitably chewy.
Okay.
And I think the number of times he threw the B word around always tickled me. I don't know why. They could not call Rosario Dawson by her name. They just had to keep tossing that around, which seemed ridiculously excessive.
Yeah.
In regards to her character, like right when you wake up out of that simulation, which is sort of the dude punching you back to life, you get through that and it turns out it's a simulation mission and you wake up in a lab, which kind of saw coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little.
It's a twist.
Woo!
Woo.
But they wake you up and then Rosario's standing over you and does this sort of like, is she a love interest thing? And the CEO and your buddy agent both walk out of the room for a minute, and she's like working on you and like enhancing the Dart 6 or something like that. She's giving you an upgrade.
Yeah.
And they come back in, and the guy goes, "The time for tweaking is over, Lily."
Did he say tweaking or twerking?
Tweaking.
Tweaking. Yeah.
Stop tweaking. And I flashed to Arrested Development through the fence, and
That's a very deep cut for Arrested Development.
That is.
do you guys remember the Marv elevator move?
No.
Where there was the sort of I don't know what they're called, but it's like a spiral staircase, but it goes around the wall and just goes up like 9 or 10 floors or whatever. And you're escaping. Actually, I think this was in the quote unquote simulation. You charge a dude and he goes over a railing and you go down through the middle of this spiral staircase 10 floors and just rush him into the floor like Marvin Sin City.
Yes, I wish
Yeah.
that would have been an option more than once.
Yeah.
Yeah, except you can do it from space.
Oh, yeah. That's Master Chief.
Yeah.
And you get hit by a helicopter at one point, and I couldn't help but write down, I used to be an agent like you till I took a helicopter to the knee.
Yeah. Very resilient, these agents.
Yes, very.
And then, as another piece of misogyny, because I just can't help but bring it up every show, they straight up double dragoned Lily right out of her apartment.
They did.
They did.
Walk up,
Yeah.
dude punches her in the gut, slumps her over his shoulder, and clop, 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 clop.
That's a
Yeah.
nice reference.
That's yeah.
Excellent.
Got some. There's some like good, solid arcade like inspiration in this game.
Yeah. Secret arcade game, Syndicate, 2012.
Like, it almost would have been a better game if they would have just been like, okay, here's a little bit. Like, if it was almost like as bad as a, oh god, I can't even think of the name. The light gun games with the actual, why can't I think? Time
Duck
Crisis.
Hunt?
I wanted to say Time Cop, and I knew that was wrong.
Oh, I'd play that.
I would totally
Yeah.
play a Time Cop light gun game. No, Time Crisis. Like, if they had just done it like, here's a little bit of story, now shoot a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
Like, I think I would have almost been
that
more
would have
on
been
board.
okay.
Yeah.
It's one complaint actually I didn't level earlier is shooting a bunch of dudes. At the end of the game, I thought the waves of enemies became too much.
I thought that about
Yeah.
half-way through.
I would
Yeah,
clear
there
out a
were-
room, and then
there were
another
too
wave
many.
would come. I'd clear that wave, and I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna move on. No,
It's even
Here comes
worse
another
than the
wave.
multiplayer.
Yeah.
say sorry.
Yeah.
It's even worse than the multiplayer. Like, you're talking, granted, there's supposed to be 4 of you. Me, Scott, and John from Carousel. Different Scott. From Carousel, we're playing the multiplayer, and so there were only 3 of us. Well, you're supposed to have 4 in the level. I mean, we're talking 70, 80 dudes pouring out of
Jeez.
doors.
Yeah.
And mini bosses coming with them and stuff. Super fun, but not easy.
That's what I've heard, and it doesn't scale. You have to have 4 people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yipes.
Oof.
Games have come a long way in the last 3 years.
They have. It's weird. Even going back just this little bit is sort of like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's weird how far we've come.
Just
Yeah.
a note on the arcade game. If there were a Syndicate arcade game, instead of shooting dudes and killing them to fill your meter back up, it would just be putting in more quarters like Gauntlet.
Oh, yeah.
Be pretty great.
Yeah. I love it.
You need dart juice badly.
It's gonna be my ringtone now.
Kilo is hungry.
It sounds like the entrance for a wrestler.
Kilo
Like that
is
would just
hungry.
blast out. Kilo is hungry, and then the
Perhaps
music kicks in.
Super Hungry's entrance, maybe?
Ooh.
Oh, hello.
There was one line that stood out to me when you get to the floating city, or not the floating city, but like the city that's like just an island. Hello?
Yeah.
No?
Still
Nothing?
here.
Okay.
I don't remember
That
which.
confu-
Let's call it the flotilla.
You hop on the back of the car after they take Lily.
Yeah, it was the oh god, what do they call
Does
it?
that
The
say
shell.
Foley?
You basically go to the shell
Basically.
from your Solid 2.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Outer Heaven, that's what I meant.
When you get there and you hack into their system, the lady in your head in the dart chip, like the voice with the dart chip, says, "Datascape camouflage complete. We belong." And I was like,
Oh,
"That's
yeah.
super creepy."
Awesome.
Yes. Yes. Great. I'm glad you pointed that out. That's awesome.
That's just such a great string of words.
There
Yeah.
weren't any. I don't think there was a single mirror in the game, but I was kind of hoping you could walk by a mirror or at least find out what you looked like to everybody else.
Well, they did that at the end,
Yeah.
where they showed
when
you.
you were under camo.
No, when you were under camo.
I want to
no.
see who I was disguised as. That's
Oh,
all.
just as like John Q. Public.
John Q. Street Fighter fan.
So
My apologies, sir.
Yes.
I wanted to get your all's thoughts on executing people throughout the game.
I
you do that?
did it every once in a while, not like civilians, but like an enemy got way too close to me. Yeah.
I don't mean enemies. I mean civilians.
No. Nope.
Regular peeps. That's
You can do
that's
that.
for me is not a. Yeah.
I
I'm
did
found
it
it
by
weird.
accident a couple times.
That happens.
I found
But
it
there
there's a
doesn't
lot-
seem to be any benefit, or like
Right.
your voice lady, who's probably your mom, doesn't even yell at you anyway. Like,
Right.
hey, agent, don't kill civilians. We're here to protect them.
I think if you do actually kill them, it's still good. Does it give you the adrenal burst to like fill
Nope.
up your stuff? No. Okay.
Oh, thank goodness.
I was gonna say, oh,
I'm gonna have to leave this show.
yeah.
All right,
I'm a monster.
another canonical explanation. For the most part, you aren't when there are civilians running around. Now there are exceptions, but generally you were in another syndicate's zone.
Yes.
So like, yeah, we don't care
sure.
about them.
And
They're foreign.
I actually really like the way they react to you when you have a gun.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was gonna bring up too. When you're getting towards like almost to the end of the outer heaven level, and you're going down that ramp, and the jig is up, and they figured out you're there, and they start like rappelling down the walls and busting through windows and stuff. A group of civilians runs right in between you and like a group of 3 guys.
Yeah.
And they pop out like a fraction of a second after you recognize there's enemies and start opening up, and
Yeah.
just like they almost trick you into gunning down like 4 people.
Yeah.
Is that the minigun section?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
There's an achievement for not killing the civilians in that section. Not killing
I
them.
ddon't get
Oh,
that one.
jeez.
I wonder if I got that one.
Yeah, yikes.
I did. That's the only reason I know about it.
Oh, boy.
Collateral damage. I'm very sorry.
Yes.
Well, look at you, Red Dead.
So I don't know if this falls under glitches or not. This is maybe just weird stuff. There was on the sort of this note about executing people too. There was a moment where there's a scene that there are 2 guys kneeled at like a prayer altar, and there's like this makeshift
Yeah.
church, right?
Yes.
That was weird.
So I go
That
up
was
to
super
him.
cool.
I get the prompt to execute them, and I didn't do it. But that what I complained about earlier with the door thing crept in. There's a door on one side that doesn't do anything, and I'm over there, and I of course choose the wrong way. So I run to the other side of the room, and as I'm running, I hear oh, and I turn around, and one of the guys is dead on the ground, and I went, oh yeah, when you run, you become like a weapon.
Yes.
Right, you trampled him to death.
Their sprint system is real weird because you go from like walking through molasses to like Gordon, just going
Gordon
crazy.
Lightfoot?
Did you just say Gordon Lightfoot?
I did, and I
Lightfoot?
caught myself.
Like
Thanks,
you get an
guys.
accident and they just bust out an acoustic guitar.
Oh god.
I can run like a moose, eh?
It's all falling apart. Oh boy. Okay, so do we got any more glitches or weird things that happen to you guys?
I
Not
found
for me.
I found an IPA energy bar.
Oh, that has to taste
Oh,
terrible.
That sounds okay.
I'm down.
Ah.
like-
So IPA to me stands for isopropyl alcohol. What does it mean to you?
That's dangerous.
It's close. It's close. Imperial Pale Ale, which is just a touch under the potency of isopropyl alcohol.
That's true.
Considering isopropyl alcohol will kill you.
That's the joke.
Yep.
Ba-da-bop-ba-da-bop.
All right.
Oh, I do have a pedantic jackass corner this month.
Of course. Okay.
As always, I left the subtitles on,
Yes.
and when they were doing the opening narration, they explained how yada yada yada, the government doesn't exist anymore, the people who don't have dart ships are basically non-existent fodder, yada yada. And now they've established Syndicate control inside the U.S. border, except they spelled it Boarder. So it's kind of meta, like they could mean that they implanted a chip into the person who is living in the U.S., like he's a U.S. border.
It's literally.
I keep trying to help this game out with canonical stuff, but I couldn't live with that one.
Yeah, it's.
And that ends Pedantic Jackass Corner. We need
There
a
it
theme
is.
song.
Yeah, we really do.
How about wah wah?
Hold up. I can make this
I
work.
think he has that one. Do you have that one queued
I
up?
can make this work. I
We-
just gotta stall for a second.
We do need a soundboard on this show, I think.
Do we?
No, that's the last thing we need.
Need is a strong word.
Yeah.
You know what I would like to have to enhance the show is like some of these clips cut out, so we could play the clip, right?
Yeah, I used to do that at the beginning of TVGP plays, and boy, that's a ton of work.
Yep.
Well, that's right out the door.
All right.
All right, so in 3, 2, 1, using take 2, and thus ends Pedantic Jackass Corner.
It's super
go.
quiet.
Yep, there it is.
I'm just gonna leave that whole thing in.
Yeah. Just gotta. Okay.
Amazing.
I mean, I think we covered this game pretty thoroughly. I just want to give, like, my overall impression. I liked this game when it came out. Revisiting it, I still really like it. I still think it's a pretty great game.
It's not super notable, but what it does, generally, it does really well.
Yeah.
I mean, I played it in 2 sittings, and that's not because it's short. I mean, it is, but, I mean, I was sitting down for 4-hour chunks of it, so obviously I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, I understand why it got skipped over, and it's kind of a perfect candidate for Game Club because it's already been forgotten in 3 short years, but.
Yeah.
It does some stuff really interestingly. It has a cool presentation. Like I said before, it looks like the future in ways that very few games do. It was kind of middle of the road. It did some stuff really well. It did some stuff that drove us nuts, and it's kind of the perfect 3 out of 5 game for a lot of reasons. But
Yep.
it's still a lot of fun.
It's a perfect 3 out of 5. I think that should be our catchphrase.
We're
like-
it's a perfect 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
We're like
If we had our
X-Play.
if we had our separate iTunes review, I would go put one in right now saying
Yeah.
that Game Club is a perfect 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
But you would still get 5 stars.
yeah,
Oh,
no.
of course.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would say this game is a lot like getting going Halloween trick or treating as a diabetic.
Oh.
It's a lot of teas.
Oh, that's a bummer.
And it
That's
puts
like
you in
the
a coma.
saddest thing I've heard all day.
Like
Yeah.
this is the greatest thing in the world. Oh, we didn't do enough of it.
Yeah, and it's already over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
See you
I
next year.
enjoyed moments.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for us, gentlemen. Boston, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It was a blast.
Yeah, this is always a
It
fun
was a
show.
great game club game.
Yes. I
Thank
think,
you for
appreciate that.
continually editing and posting these for us.
Yeah, I don't know why you keep doing that.
You're welcome. It
Like,
is-
you have control.
I do it to myself.
You are-
yeah,
you are the
I'm hoping
gatekeeper.
I can find another a game club game in this vein that that I can recommend again in the future.
I think we've
How
got a
about
couple.
Dark Souls? Dark Souls.
Yeah,
Souls
Dark
is-
Souls. I've actually never played Dark Souls. Enjoyed Demon Souls, but that was the first and last one I played.
I liked the little bit of Bloodborne I played. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So
That will probably be on my Fodies.
Yeah.
all right. So anybody got anything to plug? Jay Z.
Oh, actually, quick. Oh, you know what? I'll save that for the next thing. I sort of have 2 Twitter accounts now, although I get the messages for one. My personal one is the other Jay-Z, that's JZEE. And then I'm also on the Carousel podcast, which is, as I say every month, exceedingly explicit. So if you're
But
used
very
to
good.
TVGP,
You should go listen.
Yes,
It is.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We're all fans.
I'm glad it came back.
Me too.
It's me, Musim, that you would know from Pup, and a couple of his friends. Every other Monday, this Monday coming up will be our streaming podcast day. And then alternate Mondays, we usually stream something. In this case, we did Syndicate, except the stream is absolutely unwatchable because the guns are so loud you couldn't hear a word anyone was saying.
Hey, that happens.
But
okay.
our Twitter is Carousel Podcast.
All right. Nintendo, you got anything you want to plug?
No, not really. I mean, you can find me about anywhere, including Twitter, under Nintendork327.
All right. And Boston, of course. You have plenty of things to plug.
You should probably listen to TVGP. You can
should
find
probably-
it
Never
at
heard of it.
TVGP.tv. I would recommend you go to e1n1.com, but I keep running out of time to not make it look like garbage, so don't go there. You can go to pickingupthepixels.com if you like RPGs, and dynamicsoundtrack.com if you like a long hiatus about video game music.
I think that's the best description I've ever heard of that.
I'm
That
not
was
great at
beautiful.
marketing.
Poor
enough.
Boston. I'll do your marketing for you. Poor Boston. I bug him. I've been bugging him for 2 years since I found TVGP, and subsequently found all the other stuff to go with it. Dynamic Soundtrack, honest to God, is my favorite podcast out there. And I was so bummed when I ran out of episodes, and I bug him probably every 3 or 4 months and go, "Hey, buddy, I know it's a ton of work, but you should probably do more of these."
Jay-Z is DST's super fan, so
Yes.
I do appreciate that. But yes, I'm incredibly proud of what Dynamic Soundtrack turned into. So dynamicsoundtrack.com, if you like video game music, and you probably do because you play video games.
Yep.
And if you don't, what are you doing here?
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
You can find me just about anywhere as the Hannah. And you can watch this show every beginning of every month now. I think we've pushed it back to the point where we're just starting each month with this show, which is kind of nice.
Well, we don't want to hit Christmas, so we may as
No.
well just do the beginning of the month.
Yeah, we'll see y'all in 2016. You can also watch me.
I'm here at Christmas. I don't know about anybody else.
You're just going to be here?
He's
Christmas
going to be
Eve?
NPR.
New
He's
Year's
just going
Eve.
to host his own show.
There you go.
talking
I like
real
it.
quietly into the mic. Hi, this
Yeah.
is Scott.
I'm forsaking my children.
But of course, you can also watch us live stream TVGP here every Sunday around 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. I think that about does it. We will announce the next Game Club game on TVGP this Sunday because
You may already know it, depending on
I
when
am
it's
the
posted.
worst and forgot to put up the voting thread until like 2 days ago.
You probably already know what's going to win, so. But we won't spoil
We
the
won't
fun.
spoil anything, but it's yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody, and have a good one.
Thanks.
Bye.